Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome again. My name is Altul Krishnadas, and I'm going to be your host in this occasion. So, last time we were talking about being kind to yourself in your own journey, in your own path. Because at times we have expectations about the things that we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be living life, and sometimes we stumble, right? And that happens to absolutely every single one of us. And it's part of our nature. And we learn that we just have to treat ourselves kindly and then just redirect. And today we're going to go a little bit further. We're going to try to get why, if we have this path or this idea or we are in this journey, why we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. So basically, what attracts us or detract us from the track that we think is good. And in order to do that, we're going to have again today the wonderful Krsnacandra Das.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I feel very privileged that I'm here a second time. And thank you so much again.
Thank you for being here. So, yes, we have again this wonderful combo for all of our viewers. So, you can take the stand.
Jai. Let's begin with a prayer. One moment. Om Anjana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindaye Tulasi Devi Ai Priyavai Keshavasasha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavajai Namo Namaha Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebho Vaishnavebho Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Indriyasyartarte ragadvesho vyavastito tayornavasham agachet tohi asya paripantino. Attraction and repulsion for sense objects are felt by embodied beings, but one should not fall under the control of senses and sense objects because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self realization. During our most recent broadcast, I spoke about Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 33, about how even a person of knowledge acts according to their nature, as well as about the futility of repression. Today, we're going to talk about the next verse, 34. At first, it may seem contradictory to consider repression of our true nature to be futile, while being discouraged from falling under the control of sense objects. But actually, it's a most succinct and appropriate follow up. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of realization. This is what verse 34 tells us. Krishna is not telling us to amputate our psychology. He is telling us not to enthrone it. Always following one's urges, as a lemming would follow their leader off a proverbial cliff, makes one impulsive, not necessarily authentic. Even many who enjoy a more worldly lifestyle devoid of spirituality wouldn't advocate a frenzied free for all to satisfy the senses. Instead, they'd suggest taking a more calculated approach to avoid burnout and physical danger and to save their energy and conserve their strength for the best kind of sense gratification, for the best use of their time, playing the long game, as many would call it. Following the principles of the Bhagavad Gita is the ultimate long game. There is no better payout in all of existence. First of all, verse 34 does not forbid us from having attraction or aversion. Krishna is not telling us to make ourselves completely numb or as non responsive as a brick wall. He wants us, well, he warns us not to follow under the control of the senses and their objects. And why is that? Because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self realization. The material world consists of an infinite number of universes, including the one where we currently reside. And in each universe, there is a constant barrage of sense objects, a constant, countless amount of sense objects. They can be inanimate large objects, such as houses or scenery, such as beaches or mountains in our world. Smaller things like drugs, illegal or otherwise, money, valuable gems or metals. But living objects are especially enticing. Souls have been known to let attachment for pets get the better of them. And of course, what discussion about avoiding the control of our senses would be complete without at least mentioning the strong desire for an attractive mate? That is a universal desire that virtually all of us can relate to. As we learned from verse 33, what can repression accomplish? We cannot pretend that we are already at the finish line of our spiritual journey. Many of us will not become self realized just by reading the Bhagavad Gita once or by chanting the Maha Mantra for a couple of hours in one day. If you've ever tried to learn a new skill, such as learning to play a musical instrument or how to practice a martial art, becoming proficient can take years. Mastering even one such art can take a lifetime. When we come to the realization that the sense objects in our world are not the end all of existence, and that these objects alone will not give us enduring happiness, by learning of the eternal nature of the spiritual world and the infinitely beautiful and loving qualities of Radha and Krishna, then we have begun to take the first steps into a larger world. This is when we start truly using certain muscles for the very first time. How does it feel when you start a new physical activity like hatha yoga or tai chi for the first time? Pretty sore, right? We may need more breaks than our friends who have practiced these activities for years. Similarly, when we first take the stance where we begin to realize that the things we hanker for in this world are not permanent and they're quite transitory and cannot provide us lasting happiness, we need to prepare for the fact that we may stumble in the beginning, like a child first learning how to walk. For example, when preparing to lead a more sattvic lifestyle or a lifestyle more rooted in the mode of sattva guna or goodness, one may stumble and eat meat once while, when they're trying to be vegetarian and eat Krishna's prasadam exclusively. Or one of us may stop chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for a period of time after we had already made a sober commitment to do so for life. And when this happens, when these things happen, we can't mentally beat ourselves up whenever our pattern of growth is not as clearly linear as we wanted it to be. One very gracious aspect about this process is explained in chapter 2, verse 40 of the Gita. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Whatever we try to do on the path of bhakti will never be forgotten by Krishna. We won't have to go back to square one. So let's try to do things the right way above all. In the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn about an advanced devotee of Krishna named Bharat Maharaj. Although he had the immensely good fortune of being born in a noble family, he ended up renouncing his kingdom, conducting his bhajan to Krishna while living in the forest. He lived like a monk. He did not even have a wife at this point. During his life in the forest, Bharat Maharaj became drawn to a baby deer. This is the most innocuous type of attachment one can imagine. Who could be unable to find a baby deer to be beautiful? The urge to feed or otherwise nurture such a baby deer also seems good and only natural. This urge wasn't seen as sinful or immoral or gross. It was simply misdirected attachment. Bharat Maharaj did not regulate his affection for the deer. He allowed it to overtake his meditation to the point where he had to take birth as a deer himself. This is because Krishna is the fulfiller of all desires. As spiritually advanced as Bharat Maharaj was, he allowed his compass to take a subtle and unexpected shift. Fortunately, he was able to leave the material world, but it took him two more lifetimes to do so. Even when he became a deer, he was blessed with his previous memories. So he lived like a monk, even when he was a deer. And in his life after that, he became a sage known as Jada Bharat and made every effort to leave worldly detachment. His efforts in that lifetime were galvanized by his desire to transcend the material world and to realize his permanent relationship with Krishna. He felt the sting of hankering to leave this world, only to return as a deer due to his stumbling, due to his temporary allowance for being under the control of his senses. And Bharat Maharaj did not fall because of lust. He didn't fall because of greed. He fell because of affection. And that story should sober us because if even something so gentle and beautiful as affection can displace Krishna from the center, then the issue is not whether something is good or bad. The issue is whether it is central or secondary. Bharat Maharaj started to think of the deer during his mantra japa. He worried about it during meditation. Eventually, his internal dialogue shifted from Krishna to the deer. Now, let's look at the life of Ajamil. We can read more about him in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. Ajamil was a devotee born in a Brahmin family. He abandoned both his wife and his priestly duties when he met a prostitute and gave in to his desire to be with her. He eventually had children with her, one of whom he named Narayan, which is one of the names and expansions of Krishna. Aside from giving his son a godly name, Ajamil lived a life of sin for decades. As Ajamil became very old and his life was coming to an end, he could perceive the servants of death himself, named Yamaraj, were coming to take him away. Filled with fear, he called out to his son, Narayan. Krishna and his holy names are non-different. His name alone brings salvation. So, when the Yamadutas arrived, Narayan's servants, or the Vishnudutas, were also on the scene. Both the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas argued about who was to take Ajamil's soul away. The Yamadutas would have taken Ajamil to his next life in the spiritual world, while the Vishnudutas would take Ajamil to Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world. The Vishnudutas said that even once chanting the holy name of Narayan destroys more sins than one can commit. And soon it was crystal clear that since Ajamil called out to Narayan at his moment of death, Ajamil was saved. That is the merciful power of Krishna's holy names. To clarify, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, after the Vishnudutas stop the Yamadutas, Ajamil regains consciousness, returns to his life, goes to Haridvar, practices bhakti sincerely, and then he leaves the material world. The holy name did not reward his sin. He was given a second chance at the precipice of death. While Bharat Maharaj was an elevated soul who largely lived as a renunciate, his attachments were misdirected. Ajamil, by contrast, was a fallen soul, but by very good fortune, his attachment to his son, named after a holy name of Krishna, became his salvation. Krishna's name is so powerful that even momentarily, seemingly accidental devotion to it will redeem souls. Ajamil did not chant offensively. He did not chant mockingly. He chanted helplessly. And helpless chanting is powerful. Now, let's think back to the Mahabharata, when the Kauravas had planned to disrobe Draupadi. Krishna did not directly intervene until Draupadi herself held both of her hands up in the air and chanted, Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nata Narayana Vasudeva. Before that, she was still holding her sari in an effort to preserve her modesty with her own strength. And it wasn't until Draupadi completely gave up trying to solve the situation with her own strength and instead surrendered to Krishna completely with full faith while chanting his names, that Krishna immediately appeared and provided Draupadi with an unlimited sari, guaranteeing that her modesty would not be violated. This intervention was also the result of when Draupadi tore a strip from her own sari to bandage Lord Krishna's bleeding finger after he was injured slaying Shishupal. Deeply moved by this act of care, Krishna immediately promised to protect her, viewing it as a binding debt of love. And although Krishna is invulnerable and cannot be harmed, this event created a fateful opportunity for Draupadi to serve Krishna with love. Krishna becomes vulnerable for his devotees who truly love him. That is his mercy. And the power of his holy name is also his mercy. Now, regarding Ajamil, I'm not trying to tell you that living a sinful life is fine as long as you chant at the last moment. Now, what comes to mind for me is that on an episode of a TV show called The Simpsons, Homer created his own religion from his imagination. And when his daughter Lisa asked him, "Why are you dedicating your life to blasphemy?" Homer smugly replied, "Don't worry. If I'm wrong, I'll recant on my deathbed." Now, this is obviously a very bad policy. And I find that the absurdity of this idea is best showcased in that particular story. Sometimes in life, our heart attaches intensely to something or someone. And even if it feels noble or beautiful, if it displaces our spiritual center, it destabilizes us. But when attachment is connected to Krishna, even imperfectly as it was in the case of Ajamil, that same heart becomes the cause of deliverance. My Guru Maharaj, my spiritual teacher, frequently quoted this verse: Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastieva, 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 Gatir Anyata. And this verse is found in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 6, verse 242. The translation is: in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. The main This world has four ages. The first age is called Satya Yuga, where material, where meditation was the main process of deliverance. The next stage is called Treta Yuga, where the main process of deliverance was the Agni Yagya, or fire sacrifice rituals, which were performed while chanting Vedic mantras. The third age is called Dvarpa Yuga, where the main process was Archana, or deity worship. In our current age of Kali Yuga, the age of ignorance and hypocrisy, the chanting of the holy name is the only way to be reunited with Krishna and to be delivered from the endless cycle of the material world. But in Kali Yuga, lifetimes are short. So are attention spans. Discipline is weak and temptation is constant. In Kali Yuga, sense objects are no longer occasional distractions. They are industrialized distractions. Even within the past 10 or so years, our phones have become a constant source of distraction, promising us a constant and permanent stream of entertainment and electronic connection. We can meditate on many of our attachments simply by scrolling or perusing our friend list on social media. The beauty of the holy name being our method of deliverance in this current age is the simplicity of chanting mantra japa and the blatantly beautiful nature of the musical chanting of kirtan. George Harrison helped make the Mahamantra famous in his song My Sweet Lord, as well as the album which he produced called Radha Krishna Temple. The Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 17, verse 22 states that In this age of Kali Yuga, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does this is certainly delivered. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 3, verse 51 also states, "My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom." Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 34, does not merely warn us about attachment and aversion, it directs us towards self mastery, self realization, to discover the best versions of ourselves. But experiencing this monumental realization during Kali Yuga does not come from iron willpower, it comes from higher taste. Chapter 2, verse 59 of the Gita states that the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. We cannot simply subtract desire. We must redirect it. And the holy name does exactly that. Bharat Maharaj teaches us the danger of even subtle attachment. Ajamil teaches us the profound mercy of the holy name, even when chanted without traditional intention. Kali Yuga gives us the golden opportunity to cement our relationship with Krishna with the simple chanting of his holy names. When attachment is misdirected, it binds us. When attachment is connected to Krishna, it liberates us. And this brings us naturally to the next verse, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 35, where Krishna tells us that it is better to imperfectly perform our own dharma than perfectly perform somebody else's. Because once attachment is regulated and recentered, the next question becomes, what is my authentic path of service? And that is what we will examine next time. So please tune in this Monday to Ashram Talks English at 7:30 p.m. Monday, Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krishna Chandra.
Thank you very much, Jacob.
Again, it's a wonderful moment to self-reflection
Yes.
and thinking about, redirect the object of the desire,
Yes. Hmm.
doing kindly, as we mentioned in our last discussion.
Hmm.
But in those moments when we do realize,
Hmm.
because many times that attraction, that attachment
Yeah.
is done subconsciously,
Hmm.
and when when we notice, we're like, how did I get here?
Yes. Yeah.
When we get to that point, it's a
Mhm.
wonderful moment to
Yes.
not to judge ourselves, but just to chant the holy names.
Exactly. Yes. We should not judge ourselves. We should be humble, but at the same time, not. If we're hard on ourselves, we're really not going to make any advancement because we're going to be just busy tearing ourselves down. And the other issue is, it's like when, let's just say, when we go back to verse 33, like the about abandoning repression. So like when we if we resort to repression, then it's like um, then it becomes, the subtle attachment becomes more insidious. You have even a more difficult time catching it when we're in this false platform of repression. So we have to be very honest with ourselves and know, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and then we'll and then just very constructively tackle, what do we want to do about it. We have to evaluate, what do we really want in our existence. We don't, and most of us really, we've had enough of this, samsara over and over again. So that's, we all have that ability, and with the mercy of the holy name and the mercy of our spiritual teachers and the Vaishnavas, we can make it. All of us can make it.
Of course.
Mhm.
That reminds me, one time I remember reading that the path of Bhakti is the easiest one for renunciation, because when you do renunciation due
Mm.
to Bhakti, due to devotion, it
Yes,
comes naturally.
definitely.
Um, so you basically lose the attachment to the material world,
Yes,
in the way that you are getting attached to Krishna. And
yes.
it is a process. It is not something that happens from one day to the other.
Exactly. That's right. I mean, on the one hand, yes, it requires a little bit of discipline, but I mean, when we just look at the life of everyone, like when we really want something badly enough, then the discipline comes very naturally. So it's just a matter of just cultivating that desire, exposing ourselves to the higher tastes, and at that point, then naturally the discipline is going to come. We'll be very easily able to control our senses. Like, oh yeah, I want this. This is more. Krishna's more permanent than all this stuff. It's like you go to the store and you see all these like cheap candies, that's empty calories and it's chemicals, and it's like sometimes people can fall weakness to that sort of thing, but with a little intelligence, you realize, oh no, no, this is no good. I want something better than this.
Of course. Thank you one more time for this wonderful time of reflection during the day.
Thank
And
you.
I hope to see everybody who joined us today live on Monday
Yeah.
at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, one more time. And
Yes.
everybody who is watching from YouTube now or later on, if you want to leave a comment, if you want to go deeper about anything that we cover during this session, then we are open. And again, on Monday, I'm going to be also the host, and we're going to be with Krsnacandra again. So we will be able to continue with this thread too. So thank you to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Atul Krishna Prabhu.